beyond the cold, ruthless northern seas, lies a land where the wind screams, where mountains are shattered by ice, and where life belongs only to those who learn to stare death in the eyes and keep walking. Here, in the wild shadows of Scandinavia, a new kind of people was born. People the world would one day call Vikings. But the real question remains, where did they come from? What shaped them? And how did a harsh, hungry, isolated land forge men who would one day shake the world? The answer isn't written in the winds, it's carved into the ice, hidden in the silence of the mountains, and rooted deep in the ancient tribes whose blood and spirit began flowing thousands of years before the word Viking ever existed. Today, we uncover the truth. Today, we go back to where it all began. This is the story of where the Vikings truly came from. The homeland of the Vikings. Long before the Viking Age began, there existed a land unlike any other in Europe. A place carved by ice, shaped by mountains and ruled by storms. This land was Scandinavia, the birthplace of the people the world would one day call Vikings. To understand where the Vikings came from, we first look at the three regions that defined their world: Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. Norway was a kingdom of impossible landscapes, towering fjords, razor-sharp cliffs, and cold, violent seas. Life here was a constant struggle. Farming was limited, winters were brutal, and the mountains isolated communities for months. But this hardship forged strength. It taught the Norse people endurance, discipline, and the art of survival. Sweden, covered in endless dark forests and deep lakes, offered a different challenge. The land was vast, mysterious, and rich with iron. The people here became skilled hunters, traders and explorers of frozen rivers. Their world demanded patience, strategy, and a deep understanding of nature's rhythms. Denmark, by contrast, was flatter and slightly more forgiving. Fertile lands, softer coastlines, and easier navigation. It became the crossroads of early Scandinavian culture, a place where trade, craftsmanship, and clan society evolved rapidly. But together, these three lands shared something powerful: a harsh climate, limited resources, and an unforgiving environment. Storms were stronger, winters were longer, food was harder to find. And this shaped the Norse people into something Europe had never seen before. Where most civilizations grew in warm valleys and gentle climates, the Vikings rose from cold, hunger, and isolation. Their land forced them to become strong, adaptable, fearless, and always ready to search beyond the horizon for a better life. This is why Scandinavia wasn't just their home. It was the forge that created the Viking spirit. The Germanic tribes. To understand where the Vikings truly came from, we must travel far deeper into history. Thousands of years before the first longship touched the shores of Europe, long before the word Viking existed, their ancestors walked the cold forests and wide plains of northern Europe. These early people were known as the Germanic tribes. Around 2000 BC, long before the rise of any Scandinavian kingdom, small Indo-European groups began migrating northward. They moved from Central Europe into the colder, wilder lands of the north, lands filled with dense forests, frozen rivers, and endless stretches of untouched nature. These tribes brought with them their traditions, their tools, their beliefs, and their earliest forms of language. As these groups settled in the northern regions, they gradually transformed. The environment shaped them. Winters grew harsher, food more scarce, and life more demanding. This pressure pushed them to develop stronger hunting skills, tighter family clans, and deeper spiritual beliefs connected to nature. Slowly, a unique northern identity began to form. Over centuries, these early settlers evolved into the Germanic peoples, the direct cultural ancestors of the Norse. Their language developed into the early branches of Germanic speech, the roots from which, Proto-Norse, The earliest Viking tongue would one day emerge. Their myths, rituals, and warrior traditions began to form the foundations of what would become Norse culture. By the time they reached the Scandinavian lands, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, these tribes had already developed a distinct way of life, proud, resilient, and deeply connected to the land. Their culture continued to evolve in isolation, shaped by storms, mountains, and forests. These ancient Germanic tribes were not Vikings yet, but they were the roots, the bloodline, and the spirit that would one day rise as the Viking people. The birth of Proto-Norse culture. Between 500 BC and AD 700, something extraordinary was happening in the northern world. In the cold forests, along the rocky coasts, and inside the wooden longhouses of Scandinavia, a new culture was quietly taking shape. The culture that would one day become the Viking identity. This was the age of the Proto-Norse people. During this era, the early Germanic settlers of Scandinavia slowly evolved into a distinct northern society. Their lifestyle, language, beliefs, homes, and tools began to diverge from the rest of Europe. Isolation shaped them, the land shaped them, and survival shaped them. The first major transformation was their language. The early Germanic tongue developed into Proto-Norse, the ancestor of Old Norse, the language the Vikings would eventually speak. Along with this came the rise of runes. These mysterious markings carved into wood, stone, and bone became the earliest written symbols of the Norse. They carried prayers, warnings, and stories, messages from a world before history was written on paper. Life centered around longhouses, wooden halls shared by families, livestock, and clan elders. These homes were warm, smoky, crowded, and full of life. Children grew up hearing tales of gods and giants. Women managed farms and households. Men hunted, fished, and prepared for harsh winters. Every day was a struggle, but every struggle forged strength. Fishing and hunting were not hobbies, they were survival. Rivers, lakes, and the sea became lifelines. Boats became essential tools, and slowly, the first shipbuilding experiments began. Small wooden vessels, simple and crude, but carrying the earliest seeds of what would one day become the legendary Viking longship. By the end of this era, around AD 700, these people had become something entirely new. Resilient, skilled, organized, and deeply connected to the northern world. They were not Vikings yet, but they were ready to become them. Scandinavia's harsh climate, the biggest factor in creating the Vikings. To understand the Viking spirit, we must first understand the land that shaped them. Scandinavia was not a soft or gentle home. It was a land carved by storms, ruled by cold, and built on hardship. And nothing influenced the creation of the Viking people more than the unforgiving climate of the north. For most of the ancient world, seasons flowed gently. Winters were mild, harvests were steady, and nature allowed life to grow. But in Scandinavia, the story was completely different. Here, winters were long, very long, stretching for months, sometimes refusing to end. Snow buried the ground, lakes froze solid, winds cut through villages like blades of ice. Life slowed to a crawl, food grew scarce. This wasn't a land where comfort existed. This was a land where every day was a test. Resource scarcity was a constant enemy. The soil was thin and rocky, difficult for farming. Crops failed often. Animals migrated or died. And when winter came early, families were forced to ration every last grain. Children grew up learning discipline not from choice, but from necessity. Waste meant hunger. Laziness meant death. Sometimes, entire villages faced famine, not because they were weak, but because nature showed no mercy. People had to hunt, fish, store food, and prepare for disasters with almost military precision. Every member of society, from young to old, played a role in survival. This endless struggle built a unique personality in the Norse people, a personality defined by endurance, strength, bravery, practical thinking, risk-taking. When life itself is the enemy, fear loses meaning. The land taught them that nothing comes easily. The sea taught them that everything can be taken away in a moment, and the winters taught them that only the strong survive. This is why the Norse became naturally tough. Hard life created hard people, but the climate didn't just shape their bodies, it shaped their ambitions. Because resources were limited, opportunities were few and lands were harsh. The Norse people developed a powerful instinct to look beyond the horizon. When crops failed, they explored. When land ran out, they sailed. When hunger struck, they adapted. When winters closed in, they worked harder. Scandinavia forced them to become explorers. Long before the world knew the word Viking, their curiosity, their courage, and their hunger for new lands were not born from greed. They were born from survival. The sea was not an adventure to them, it was a solution. By the time the Viking Age began, the Norse were already shaped by centuries of cold, hunger, storms, and struggle. The climate didn't make them cruel, it made them unstoppable. The lifestyle of Norse clans. Before the world knew them as Vikings, they lived simple, disciplined, and deeply connected lives as Norse clans. Their world was not built on empires or kingdoms. It was built on small, tight-knit communities spread across the vast landscapes of Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. Scandinavia was divided into chote tribal clans, each made up of several families bound together by blood, loyalty, and survival. Every clan had a jarl, a respected leader chosen not for wealth, but for wisdom, strength, and the ability to protect the people. The jarl settled disputes, guided decisions, and ensured the clan survived another winter. Life revolved around self-sufficient wooden longhouses, warm and smoky inside, built to resist storms outside. Families lived together under one roof. Parents, children, grandparents, and sometimes even livestock during harsh winters. This close living created a powerful social bond. Everyone knew their role, and every member contributed. The Norse practiced local farming, growing barley, oats, and vegetables wherever the rocky soil allowed. But farming alone could not sustain them, so they relied heavily on fishing, salmon, cod, herring, and whatever the cold northern waters could offer. Rivers and seas became their lifelines. Their community culture was built on cooperation. Men hunted and protected. Women managed the home, farms, and food storage. Elders told stories, taught traditions, and passed down wisdom. Children learned early how to work, survive, and respect the land. These people were not raiders yet. They were not Vikings. They were Norse, ordinary families living extraordinary lives in a harsh world. Their strength came not from war, but from unity. Their identity came not from conquest, but from survival. And from these peaceful, disciplined clans would rise a people who would one day change history. Ship technology, the true birth moment of the Vikings. There is one moment in history when the Norse people transformed into something the world would never forget. And that moment did not happen on land. It happened on water. The true birth of the Viking Age came with the invention of the Longship, a masterpiece of engineering far ahead of its time. These ships were not just wooden vessels. They were the wings that allowed the Norse to fly across oceans. The Longship was designed with incredible speed in mind. Its narrow shape, perfectly curved hull, and balanced weight allowed it to glide through the water faster than any European ship of that era. While other vessels struggled against waves, the Longship danced over them. Its greatest strength was flexibility. It could travel across open seas, slip through narrow rivers, and navigate shallow coastlines with equal ease. The secret was its shallow keel, which allowed the ship to float in surprisingly low water. Vikings could land almost anywhere: beaches, riverbanks, hidden coves, places no army expected an attack from. Navigation was another miracle. Long before compasses reached Europe, the Norse used sunstones, crystal-like stones that revealed the position of the sun even on cloudy days. Combined with their knowledge of stars, waves, and winds, these tools made them some of the most advanced navigators of the ancient world. With these ships, the world opened before them. They could reach the British Isles, travel the rivers of Russia, sailed to Iceland, Greenland, and even North America 5 centuries before Columbus. And so a simple wooden creation became the engine of history. Vikings were not born in their villages. They were born the moment they built ships capable of carrying them beyond the horizon. This was the real beginning. This was the moment the Norse became Vikings. Europe's weakness. Why the Vikings rose. In the 8th and 9th centuries, Europe was passing through a strange and unstable era. Kings were changing, politics were collapsing, and governments were becoming weaker. On the surface, Europe looked powerful, but from the inside, it had grown extremely fragile. The first major weakness was the wealth of the monasteries. The church held gold, precious objects, written manuscripts and large storage houses, but their security was extremely weak. Monks were travelers and scholars, not fighters. They had no armies guarding them. This made monasteries perfect targets for the Norse. The second reason was political fragmentation. Every small region had its own small ruler with very limited control. There was no central army, no strong coastal defenses, and no unified leadership. This chaos gave the Scandinavians an opportunity where their speed, their ships, and their discipline succeeded long before anyone could stop them. The third weakness was completely open trade routes. Goods were moving freely from Scandinavia to England, France, Spain, and even the North Atlantic. But these routes were barely protected. Where there is trade, there is wealth. And where there is wealth, Vikings arrive. These combined weaknesses, wealthy monasteries, low security, divided politics, and unprotected trade routes, became an open door through which the Norse could enter with ease. This opportunity gave them the first push that transformed them from simple Norse farmers into what the world would soon call Vikings, where Europe showed weakness. The Vikings saw opportunity. Final origin summary. So after thousands of years of movement, survival, and evolution, the truth becomes clear. The Vikings came from Scandinavia, from the cold, rugged lands of Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. These 3 regions formed the cradle in which the Viking spirit was shaped. Their story begins with Germanic ancestry, ancient tribes who migrated north long before recorded history. These people carried Indo-European traditions, tools, and early language forms into the deep forests and frozen mountains of the north. Over centuries, isolation and climate transformed them into something distinct. Their bloodline mixed with Indo-European roots, creating a strong genetic and cultural foundation. From this came the earliest elements of Norse identity, their toughness, their rituals, and their connection to the land. As time passed, the early settlers developed a unique society known as the Proto-Norse culture. Between 500 BC and AD 700, their language evolved into Proto-Norse, the ancestor of Old Norse. They carved runes, built longhouses, hunted, fished, and began experimenting with wooden boats. This period planted the seeds of what would one day bloom as the Viking world. But perhaps the most powerful force behind their transformation was the harsh climate of Scandinavia. Long winters, hunger, scarcity, and constant struggle forged a people who were strong, fearless, disciplined, and always ready to adapt. Hard life gave birth to hard people. These people lived in independent clans, not kingdoms, small societies guided by jarls, united by survival and deeply connected to their land. Their unity and community culture built the foundation of Norse strength. Then came their greatest invention, advanced ships. Longships capable of crossing oceans, sneaking through rivers and reaching distant worlds. This technology unlocked their destiny. Meanwhile, Europe was weak, its monasteries wealthy, and its defenses low. Trade routes were open, opportunity was everywhere. And so all these elements came together. Ancestry, culture, climate, community, ships, and timing. This is how the Vikings were born. Not suddenly, but through centuries of forces shaping them into the world's most iconic explorers and warriors. In the end, the Vikings did not come from any distant kingdom or forgotten land. They were born from Scandinavia itself, from its freezing winds, its unforgiving winters, and the endless struggle for survival that shaped every generation. They were molded by hardship, forged by hunger, and strengthened by the storms that ruled their world. And when the sea called them, they answered with courage that few could match. Their ships carried more than warriors. They carried centuries of strength, skill, and unbreakable spirit. To understand the Vikings is to understand the land that created them. A land of ice, a land of endurance, a land that taught its people to rise again and again, no matter the cost. This is their story. This is their truth. The Vikings were not shaped by fate. They were shaped by Scandinavia.